next? Yeah, who's next?
Welcome to The Climb. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. That's, in fact, what The Climb stands for. It isn't an acronym that stands for creating leverage in the music business. And with that, I want to introduce you to my co-host and good friend and hit songwriter, Brent Baxter. He's actually an award-winning hit songwriter. I'm not trying to be redundant, but he's got cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady Antebellum, Joe Nichols, and more. And Brent also helps songwriters turn pro by teaching the art, the craft, and my favorite thing, the business of songwriting. You can find Brent at either manvsrow.com or the newly branded songwritingpro.com. Brent, how you doing?
I'm doing well. And let me introduce y'all to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. It's an innovative artist development company. Not only do they develop and improve your artistry, they also grow and monetize your fan base, creating what? Cash flow. That's right. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That's production, singular, no S. Hey, Johnny. Good to see you, man.
How are you, brother?
Man, I'm good. I'm rocking along.
Good.
I'm ready to study at your feet and soak up whatever you got to bring me tonight.
Well, let's get into it. This is actually going to be a two-parter. So we're going to get into part one right now. The whole, both episodes entail 10 fundamentals of creating a viral YouTube series, a viral YouTube channel. How do you use YouTube? It is probably, amongst the indie artists in my community, the most underused, amazing tool that you could have. Mm-hmm. Far too many artists are focused on spending tons of money on recording, or let's just say tons of money being defined as their whole budget, zero on marketing, mm-hmm. and they want to put it on YouTube, Pandora, Spotify. I'm sorry, not YouTube, iTunes, Pandora, Spotify. Maybe they make a video and they put that on YouTube, but nothing really happens because in Nashville, down on Broadway, you've mm-hmm. got all those bars, and there's actually, believe it or not, foot traffic. There's a science, I should say, to the foot traffic. So if you have a bar on the north side of Broadway, you get 25 or 35% more foot traffic than if your bar or your store is on the south side of Broadway. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but there's foot traffic. So having a store in that location can prove to be extremely profitable for you mm-hmm. if you know what you're doing, or having a bar in that location. That is, however, not the case on iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, Deezer, Slacker. People don't just stumble across your product. Mm-hmm. So YouTube, I mean, nobody's broke on iTunes that I'm aware of. I'm sure maybe there's an exception to the
I think there are a lot of broke people on iTunes.
No artist has broken and blown up because they put their track up on iTunes and kind of stumbled across it. They became the most shared song of the year or whatever. And to my knowledge, nobody's broke from exposure, from being discovered on Pandora or Spotify. I know that there's people gotten some boosts on some of the bigger Spotify type playlists, which are something that I'm very interested in learning more about. But I just haven't heard of anybody. I'm like, where did these guys come from? Mm-hmm. They were on this playlist on Spotify, and they blew up. They sold 20, 40, 60, 100,000 records, and boom. Right. But I can name 3 artists right now off the top of my head who broke on YouTube, mm-hmm. who have come from nothing and blown up into real, by golly, artists simply because of the work that they did on YouTube. We're going to break down those fundamentals. Cool. Those artists are Noah Guthrie. Check him out. Mm-hmm. Secondly, Carmen, who Noah's big. Now, he put 77 weeks of work in, mm-hmm. okay? We've talked about him in prior episodes. Mm-hmm. On the 77th one, he got his biggie, which was, I think it's up to 24, 25 million views right now. Then there's Carmen, who got a record deal out of that. Her biggie, again, weekly work, consistent work. She got her biggies. It's almost nearing 100 million views. It's definitely over 95 million views now. And then probably the most famous of them all would be Macklemore and Ryan Lewis, who won a Grammy. And this should be noted, they weren't independent. They were actually signed to Warner Brothers, but they broke them like they would an independent band. They used YouTube to do it. And YouTube broke the band, and they weren't getting spins on radio until that video blew up on YouTube. So how do you make that happen? There's work that's involved, and it's consistent. I want to dissect that a little bit with you today. So YouTube, to me, when I was growing up in the 80s, we had MTV, and that was thebomb.com. You got your
before
video.
There was a .com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you got your video on MTV, one spin at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning at 3 a.m. is what made the difference between Guns N' Roses losing their record deal on Geffen Records and blowing up into the super mega stardom act that they are. Now, you don't get that kind of exposure on YouTube, but you do get the reach. So essentially, you can reach everybody. You have the capability on YouTube of reaching over 1 billion people on this planet. And you need just a small fraction of those people to love you and buy your song to make a living as an artist. But unlike MTV, where all those people, 200 million kids in the United States are watching MTV at that time. They don't have that listenership or viewership for one specific show, but the reach is there. And if you can figure out how to get them to you and connect the dots, you can have you're unlimited. You can go bigger than MTV. I'm certainly Carmen with 95 million views. That's 95 million people, or maybe it's 60 million people, and a bunch of them have seen it multiple times that have seen that video and are aware of who she is.
Well, you're talking about the spin at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning for Guns N' Roses. Well, that was one spin. If you missed it, you missed it. Yeah, on YouTube, you put it up, it lives.
And on and on.
It's always in rotation. It's just a matter of somebody tuning in, right?
So when you're talking with artists and they're frustrated with, I can't get my stuff out there. We have done this exact. We were already involved in this process of these fundamentals that I'm going to break down for you for Bailey James. And this took a 12-year-old girl at the time from 0 views to over 300,000 views without any promotion. We did not pay for anything. Now we're starting to promote her, so those numbers are bigger, and they got bigger a lot faster because we've got a video, we've got a record out. We're in full-on marketing mode. But while we were building, while we were creating the project, we were finding her an audience. And the day before we dropped that first video on YouTube, that was March 25th of this year, 2016, we had over 300,000 views on her channel, and she had over 3,400 subscribers or 3,350 subscribers. That's 3,350 people that want to see it. How do we do that?
Before there's even a record out.
Before there's even a record out. And she got talent. She can sing. That helps. She's compelling. Yeah. She's compelling. She's cute. She's adorable. She's smart. She's an old soul. And she's got all those things that are necessary to be a star. And if you think that you have that, you can't not do YouTube. You've got to make a little room to make this happen, okay? So let's dive into it. So the first thing that we want to tackle is you want to make something that's shareable, okay? And this is, by the way, for all content, really, you have to give consumers a reason to share it. You've got to think about it from their perspective. In the case of a music artist, with Bailey James, the angle that we took was we did cover songs with Bailey, and we had Bailey singing to a single instrumental track. Usually there's 1 or 2 that are karaoke tracks that we had in a pinch, but most of them were either guitar track or piano track, very raw, very rough. She wasn't playing by herself at the time, and she would just sing into the microphone and deliver the performance. Yes, sing her little butt off. She's so good, okay? One performance, front to back. There was no cuts. I think a lot of people get hung up on overproducing a music video. They're like, I want to make the epic music video. Man, we're just talking about one shot. And front to back, and we picked songs that were going to be shareable because I was just picking off the Billboard Hot 100. There you go. Like, who's going up the chart, and who can we get like right when the song drops, right there, or who can we get that's maybe not going to have a lot of competition. Okay, so you're going to get a Taylor Swift song, which we did, and Taylor Swift, but has probably a legion of 1 million little girls that are all putting up their cover songs of the Taylor Swift song.
Right.
So there's a lot of competition there. So I don't think we have a Taylor Swift song that eclipsed 10,000 views.
Mm-hmm.
But then she goes and does Girl Crush.
Mm-hmm.
And not a lot of people, there wasn't a lot of competition for that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're over 110,000 views on that. And it was shareable because here's this little girl singing a Girl Crush and slaying it.
Yeah.
And I would tell you that part of shareability is the more distant it is from what your lane is, or the more distant your lane is from the artist that you're covering, the more interesting it gets. I personally love cover songs that are out there.
Right. So doing a cover song where you're not just copying exactly what the artist already did. You want to bring something new to the party. You want to have a totally different flavor of it.
Exactly. Instead of doing Sheryl Crow's version of Sweet Child of Mine, which sounds like she was even copying the vocal licks from Axl Rose, the original singer, think about there's this great band called the Gourds.
Mm-hmm.
They're this hippie mountain band from Colorado that's definitely like a bluegrass feel to them, but they covered Snoop Dogg's Gin and Juice.
Yeah.
It's astoundingly compelling.
Yeah.
It's the only way I can explain it, you know. Rolling, and they put a melody to it. Rolling down the street, smoking Nando, sipping on gin and juice, I laid back with my mind on my money and my money on my mind.
Yeah.
The banjo's rolling back there, and everybody's just bouncing along, and it's like, what?
So
Or think
it has the familiarity of something you already love, you know, a song that you're already into, but it also has the novelty of something fresh and different. So it's like
if you're
really potent combination.
Yes, and so I think artists sometimes get hung up on when they're doing a cover. They're like, well, how I would want to do a cover that would be for me, like something I would put on my record.
Right.
This is not a cover that's designed to be artistic in the sense that it's going to be shown as a piece of your work. It is, however, very artistically cathartic. When you get into the groove of doing this on a weekly basis, and we're going to talk about consistency later, but when you get in the groove of doing this on a weekly basis, when you got to sit down and figure out, what am I going to do to this song? And how am I going to put my stamp on it? How am I going to twist this up to make it mine? Then what's nice about it artistically speaking is you don't have to come up with the lyric. And you can certainly mess with the lyric, and you can take artistic license on the melody, and you can play the feel differently. Noah Guthrie's big song was LMFAO's "Sexy and I Know It." That's a pop song. It's like song, but he's got this. It's way behind the beat, and he's got that groovy soul voice. It's like, I'm sexy and I know it, and you're just like, yes, it sounds like butter when he sings. It's so different, and that was shareable. That's what made that go viral.
Because you're not going to share what everyone already knows, because they already know it. So there's no reason for them to.
So why are we picking off the Hot 100? Because we're looking for something that's about to blow up, something that's about to go from 3 to 5 million hits to 50, 60, 100 million hits by a big artist, and you're going to do your version of it.
Because people
and then you're
will
going to
be
get
looking
some
for
spillover.
People will be looking for it.
And then when they find you and you slay it, they're going to be like, whoa, check this out. This is cool. So that's part of the shareability factor.
Cool.
Also, what else makes it shareable? Funny, relatable. It's kind of topics. If you're doing a comedy thing or something like that, relatable. If you think about, there was a viral video that went around with a woman that just filmed herself walking through New York City for one day.
Okay.
Relatively, I can't remember the woman because I don't think you ever maybe saw her, but she was hot, I'm pretty sure. So it was this whole sort of little vignette of look at how hard it is to be a good-looking woman in New York, because it was cattle calls and construction workers and people like trying to walk up next to her and pick her up and all, and just her just fending off these hounds from every angle. And it was just one day in New York City, and that blew up because women could relate to that, and men were like, look at these, because they could relate to it from the other side, right? So you talk about that in your songwriting. Same thing happens when you're putting something together on YouTube. So topical too. If you've got a song that, for instance, right now we're heat in the middle of a political storm of sorts, that we've got an election coming up. So if you've got songs that you could cover, Our buddy Matt Klein's got a whole political record you could download and cover some of those songs and do it really funny and you get it out there.
C.L.I.M.B. Matt Klein.
That's right.
C.L.I.M.B. The song you covered just may be mine.
I cut a bunch of those too, and they're fantastic. Yeah. That record is brilliant. So that's another way to make it shareable. And then anything that might be practical.
This sounds topical. When Matt and I were working on it, we worked on a political comedy record. All right, it wasn't mean, it wasn't hateful, but it was funny, meant to be kind of evergreen, which is why you still cover those songs and they're still relevant. But anyway, we were looking at songs that other people were doing, political songs on YouTube and stuff. We were searching, and we're like, oh my gosh, there are these two guys in their bedroom wrote this not quality song about Obama. It's not really funny. It's not really good on any of the measurable things, but it's got like 2 million views because it was topical. Yeah. Or they had a bunch of family. But it was more the topic than it was singing ability, songwriting ability, cleverness of the lyric or any of that stuff. We're like, why is that? But it was topical, and people wanted whatever that message of that song was. People wanted to see it and they wanted to share it. Because they felt that way on Facebook,
And when you're starting to build stuff up, when you're starting to build an audience and grow your subscribership on YouTube, you can intertwine these two approaches that fall under that shareability umbrella. Cover, and then bust out a political song, something funny and political, topical and funny at the same time. Cover Matt Klein and Brent Baxter's song. And all of a sudden, because you're building that base, it has a higher potential of reaching more people. And we'll talk about that later on with the consistency. But so number 2 is conversational. When you're addressing I see too many people putting up videos and they're just like.
For those of you on the audio podcast, Johnny is making a deer in the headlights look at the camera. Like he's turned it on and he doesn't know what to say. And he's like, oh, my goodness, I wonder if the world can actually see me right now.
Sweet Bobby was a friend of mine. And they just start singing. And then they're done. And then you just see their head come into the camera.
Turn it off.
And turn off the thing. And then you're out and you're like, what just happened? Like, unless you're Adele and you're going to slay me with the voice. I mean, part of my favorite, some of my favorite pieces of my favorite artists are them, their personality as well as their talent.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Adele is funny and quick and very sharp-tongued, and David Lee Roth is just his own interview.
Yeah.
Bono's intelligent. There's all that other stuff about you.
The artist as a person, too. Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite concerts I've been to several times is a kind of a folk singer-songwriter guy named David Wilcox from North Carolina. And man, the stories he would tell and the stories he would weave to set you up for his song. When he did a live album, and half of it was the setup stories, which were powerful or funny or what. I mean, he set those up, and so man, just teed you up to hear that song. It's like that's some of my favorite stuff, and the songs are great. But man, you get a sense of who he is and all that stuff even more so than you do from a song. So yeah, give me that stuff.
It's a perfect way to blend the conversational fundamental into what you're going to do as an artist.
And it wasn't. I wrote this song about my dog because my dog's off. It wasn't that stuff. It was compelling.
It was a story.
It was a story.
You told the story.
Exactly.
So I got this mutt. All right. So I picked this dog up at the pound. I got to tell you, this is a sad story, but and all of a sudden you're brought in. To the movie because of the way he delivers it. I know several artists like that do that, and you're right. That's the setup, and we don't care what you wrote it about unless you're going to make a story out of it and make that interesting too.
Yeah, the song has to stand on its own, and so does the story.
But talk to them like the way Brent and I are talking right now. This is a very real part. When this podcast bumps up to YouTube, which is going to happen in a couple weeks, it's a very real part of our shareability. It's just two guys talking about the music business and trying to share everything that we can with our community and connect with you.
And we're both devilishly handsome. Let's just be honest about that. Which you'll
extremely intelligent.
Take our word for it for a couple more weeks on YouTube. Oh boy! But
I have far more hair gel than Brent. But so another real good conversational method is to is to respond directly to your fans. I made sure Bailey did that on all of her YouTube videos. Like, she was on there. If somebody said something, she would thank them, answer back. If somebody said something negative, she would thank them for the feedback. But she responded to everybody
Like
and reached
comments,
out.
You mean?
Yes, in the comments. Now, another thing that she would do is, I'm telling you that we had the weekly cover song that we would do, and we would base that song not off of something artistically that would fit her, but what was going to get a lot of traffic. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't care, like, if it was rap, we didn't do any rap songs, but the farther it was away from her lane, which was old school country, the cooler it was for me, because she sings she can't help but sound like Patsy Cline. Yeah. So it just sounds like Patsy Cline, aka Belly James, just whipping up her own version of a Sam Smith song, mm-hmm. or a Taylor Swift song or something like that. So Bailey actually came up with this on her own, to give credit where credit is due, but she did 5 questions with Bales, mm-hmm. to make it more interactive. So she would ask over social media, over the course of a week on social media, ask me any random question and I'll answer it. Mm-hmm. And I'll do it on YouTube, and maybe I'll give you a shout out. So she would take the questions, and she did 5 questions with Bales, which was she would answer 4 questions and give 1 random fact about herself. Mm-hmm. Something weird, a failure, a klutzy moment, something whatever that humanized her, yeah. And that was really cool. But she took the time to print out the handle, the Twitter handle or the Instagram handle of the person who sent it in. Like, okay, so I want to thank, at Brent Baxter, at Razor Baxter. Yeah. This is your song. And so that created a whole nother conversational element. Also brought in a vanity piece.
That person's going to share it.
Right? They want to share it, and they want to tune in because I don't know if she's going to answer my question.
Right, yeah.
Right? So you want to see that. Talking directly to them like we're doing right here, treating the tone like a Snapchat or an Instagram, like a very friendly chat. It makes people feel more comfortable with you at home. So, and that leads into the third fundamental, which is interactivity. And interactivity, again, finding clever ways to, how can we involve the fans? How can we get the fans to reach out and say something? Clever little contest. Every performance you do this. You try to get them to sing along. You try to get them to clap along. You divide the crowd. That's a kind of interactivity thing. When you start thinking about interactivity in terms of social media and really get your mind set on that, you begin to ask the right questions, because the answers are going to be different for every artist, because each artist is like a snowflake. Mm-hmm. Different things are going to work for them, and different things are. But on the interactivity front, when you start asking the right questions, your subconscious will reward you. Yeah. It's when you're not asking any questions, or you're asking the wrong questions, that you're getting the wrong information. So what can you do to be clever, to make it more interactive, and to make them want to come back for the next episode?
What's your version of throwing a pick into the audience, a guitar pick into the crowd? What's your version of that? Right? Make somebody's day, right?
Exactly. Like, what can you do? Like, what can you, is there something you can give away? If there's something maybe you could share, like, hey, tell me one random fact about yourself, and I'll shout it out, and then I'll compare it with mine. How can we make them buddy mm-hmm. with you?
I'll tell you one thing, and this is the live concert form, but if you can apply this, if you can do this through a YouTube video, and I was at a Garth Brooks concert. I've been to several, but this is he did some flood relief. So this is back like 2005, after we had the massive Nashville flood. He did a bunch of shows to raise money for recovery and stuff. And so we're way back in the back, right? But we're just happy to be there because he's awesome. And anyway, so he comes out and he's doing his encore thing. It's just a great show. And then at the very end, when he's doing his adioses, and he starts pointing people out in the crowd, like. And you back there, because it's kind of in the round a little bit, and you back there with the sign, that in the green shirt, you never sat down. Thank you for being here tonight. And you in the back row, with, pointing out people's like, you were up all night. And I appreciate that. And he's pointing these people out that you're like, oh my gosh. He told them what they were doing. Now, I'm assuming he really did. I don't know. I'm not sitting next to that person, but he reached literally to the back of the arena and pointing people out behind him, and it's like, and he also took, requests during the encore off people's posters. So he'd point out, yeah, I'll do that one. Does the band know that one? Doesn't matter, I'll do it myself. He found these ways in this
to make it like a big party, like you feel like Garth, and you were invited to the party.
Yeah, it's like he reached to the back, and so we felt like, okay, he knows we're back here. Yeah, to really just to throw his arms around the whole arena. It was like, oh wow, okay, he found the way to reach the people in the back, because if you're anywhere near that person that got picked out, you're like, he sees us up here. And so if you can find a way to do that, through YouTube, where some with Bailey giving their handles, other ways to make them feel special. Like Garth used to, get the spotlight and he'd shine it on the crowd. So if it falls on you, like, he aimed right at me.
Yeah, and you love that. I mean, come on, you're a performer, you're a writer. If you're in the business, you're gonna freak. Like, I'm going to see Guns N' Roses in July. Oh. Man, if they did that to me, I'd freak out. I would love it. Yeah,
just wanted a little bit of acknowledgement, a little like they saw me. That little connection, a little bit of a connection.
That brings up a point on these fundamentals that we're covering, and we're halfway through the first 5, but you don't need to have all of them on every video, but you need to think about which ones need to be on the video. And this is going to help you continue to grow an audience, which is going to help increase your chances of getting that big viral video. And when you get the big viral video, the world changes, okay? So number 3, and this is important for all social media, is consistency. Consistency. We are what we do every day. And that is the bottom line.
Hey, one hamburger every once in a while doesn't make you fat. One salad every once in a while doesn't make you skinny. It's what you do on a daily basis.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. So consistency boils down into several different chunks. Schedule. I liken this. You really have to think about your YouTube channel as your own personal network and understand how fickle the attention of your audience can be. So quick case in point, you remember that television show back in the late 90s with Kiefer Sutherland called 24? And there's a really big hit show. Oh, yeah. I was addicted to it. I love that show, and it's so over the top. I mean, he saves the world and the president and his girlfriend all within 24 hours. Right. Every single show. It was like amazing. Yeah. But so this is before DVRs, before you could just set it and forget it and binge watch later on. If you had to watch, you had to show up if you wanted to see it. So people would have parties like, exactly, appointment viewing. And the first season, I'd never missed an episode. Then the second season, about halfway through, I got into a commitment on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock, I think it was, for something like 6 or 8 weeks. It was a long commitment, and I basically missed the rest of the season. And when I got done, guess what I figured out? I was okay. And my life was all right. I'd actually gone to this neuro-linguistic programming seminar thing. It was like a string of weeks long, but I didn't miss it then. I was in, they had me hooked, and then I was out, and I was out. Yeah. It was good. So that's the way your people are going to behave. So you've got to be there every week. My blog, every week. There's only been a couple of weeks where I haven't done it, and most of those I filled in with one of your blogs.
Thank you.
And so you have to have something teed up. So don't, if you're going to do it, get 3 or 4 in the can before you make it public, so that you've got a buffer there, so that you can realistically continue that schedule to put those out. And again, we're going to go more into that in a second, but lo-fi really, really works, and it's really good for the talented. If you can slay it on the guitar, or if you can slay it on the voice, or you've got words like Bob Dylan, who couldn't sing his way out of a wet paper bag, but just his words are magic and change the world. Then that's what's going to come through in a one-on-one situation with you and the camera in a very, very lo-fi kind of a way. Second, so there's the schedule. The second is with personality. Keep your personality consistent. You don't want to be really depressed one day, and then oh my God, you don't want to be manic depressive and be flip flopping on your schizophrenic tendencies on everything. Maybe this sounds crazy and out there, but there's 2 artists right now that I can think of that really blew up on YouTube by alter egos. Oh, yeah? Earl Dibbles Jr., a.k.a. Ranger Smith, and he was this funny redneck character, but Earl Dibbles Jr. was on YouTube as Earl Dibbles Jr. all the time. That's what he did. And he blew that up into this. That's a $1.8 million company every year, and all of that happened completely independently and online, and a ton of it through YouTube, not for nothing. And the other person is Miranda Sings, who is a comedian. And really creepy. Like my girlfriend's little girls just think she's hysterical. Bailey knows who she is. It's I don't get it. But she is big and making money. And she's always Miranda Sings. So she's always in character. So bring your personality and be consistent with that. And then finally, format. And you can learn a lot about format if you just are binge listening to this podcast. Notice that Brent and I open up the podcast every single time the same way, and we close the podcast pretty much the same way. We introduce each other, and we end it the same way. So essentially, we're beginning, and we're ending. And this may sound stupidly simple, but this is a really basic human need. If you go to a live performance coach, there are moves that you make in your paraverbal language with stuff not the way you say it, the way you move, that signifies to the audience it's time to clap. And you learn how to control an audience that way and let them know it's okay. That means if I don't make that move and there's a silence, nobody claps because I've got a pregnant pause here. I say, sir, something. I've got something coming in the show. So the format makes sure that you're the same every single week. If you look at Bailey James' account, you can see that. So that's number 4, consistency. And then your style and voice. I think with Bailey, if you notice on her channel, the cover songs are always from her bedroom, which we like because it brings people in. It brings them into the bedroom, and she's got posters on the back. They're always the same posters: Johnny Cash and 5 Seconds of Summer, and it's always the same sort of scene. And there she is with the microphone in front of her. Hey, y'all, I'm Bailey James, and she introduces herself with the thing. But the setting is the same.
So if you see that in the little sidebar of YouTube, there's more to go, oh, yeah, that's that one. I saw something good. It's almost its own form of visual branding, where if you see it in the little sidebar of YouTube, it's more easily recognizable than if today I'm out in the stables by the horses and tomorrow I'm out in the field and the next day I'm out somewhere else, which that can be interesting to break it up, but some of that consistency probably helps people recognize it in the thumbnail.
Man, sometimes that's all you need for the hook, Brent. Like, there's a guy, for the life of me, I don't know who he is, but he is this metal guitar player. I think he's from South America somewhere. It's always the same picture of him up against the same crappy wall. It's like a ghetto wall. I think it's inside his apartment or something like that. And he does these metal versions of whatever, and he's a huge YouTube star. People, there are artists on YouTube who make a really, really good living just from YouTube. Yeah. Just from doing this kind of stuff. And you can too. So at the very least, you can pack this into your exposure mechanism to get to more people. Okay. And the last part of this is targeting. Like, who are you targeting to go and see for these videos? That's important. And what I like about YouTube is it is a place where you can send people. So if you're doing your due diligence and doing your work on Twitter and on Instagram and on Facebook and live at your playing live shows, if you're connecting with people, becoming their friend, turning strangers into friends and friends into customers, then we can send them and they'll happily go to Facebook to YouTube. And the targeting, you can really be surgical on your social media. But let's make sure that we're reaching out to people who want to hear
what you do,
your kind of music. Yeah, if you're selling hamburgers, you're not going to get any love in a vegan community.
Right.
Nobody's going to care. So make sure you know what pond you're fishing out of, so you know you got the right bait. Right. So that's number 5. So that ends part 1 of the 10 fundamentals of getting a viral video channel on YouTube and building that customer base. Number 1 was shareability. Number 2 was conversational. Number 3 was interactivity and finding clever ways to try to bring that audience in through that screen. Number 4 was consistency. And then finally, number 5 of part 1 was the targeting. How are we going to make sure we get out there? So we've got 5 more coming up on my next episode, which will be 1 episode away. But having said that,
you have a giveaway, don't you? You have a little gift?
I do have a giveaway. You know what? I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Actually.
Look at that.
Being that we're talking about YouTube here, we every Tuesday and every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time, I put on a free webinar about marketing your music. And you can join this free webinar. We break down the basic building blocks of how to replace your current income with money from your music so that you can make money from your music. And if you do it like in a half-arsed way, so to speak, then the very least, you're still going to make money to keep that habit going. Mm-hmm. But if you really grab the bull by the horns, you can make a living doing it. It's something I've done. So it's real. It's howtomarketmymusic.com. howtomarketmymusic.com. Go there. It's a free webinar, and it's probably a little bit more than an hour and a half. We take live questions and kind of get into what's going on. So make sure that you check that out.
Awesome. So howtomarketmymusic.com. Mm-hmm. Great domain, by the way. Good job.
Really says what it means, right?
Yeah, I kind of know what to expect when I go there. That's nice.
All right. So having that is all for episode 14 now of The C.L.I.M.B with my good friend Brent Baxter. Good to see you again, buddy.
Good to see you, Johnny. Hey, and if you're enjoying this out there in listener land, man, we would love a rating and review on iTunes. It helps. We'll be getting out a new and noteworthy here in a minute. We'll age out, and so man, those ratings and reviews will help keep us more visible in the iTunes podcast library for people to find, for singers, songwriters, and independent artists like you to get helped by. And that's what we want to do. We want to help as many people as possible. So that is a way to give back to us if you're getting value from this, and help us help other people.
There you go. Yeah. Spread the love.
Spread the love.
All right.
And keep on climbing.
We'll see you at the top.
See ya.